What's up, Packer fans? Welcome into this Sunday edition of the Pack-A-Day podcast. I'm your host, Andy Herman. It seems unreal that this is still only the third weekend without football. We have a long way to go. And that being the case, it is that time of the season, right? There's always some interesting conversations going on. Of course, yesterday I discussed potential Bear trades for Deshaun Watson and Russell Wilson. And today I'm going to be talking on another favorite topic of those on Twitter and message boards everywhere, the potential that the Packers could trade Jordan Love. So let's jump in right away and get started. And let me just start things off right away by saying there is a 99.99999% chance repeating through infinity that the Green Bay Packers do not trade Jordan Love this offseason. I would be beyond shocked. Of all the things that could potentially happen this offseason, a Jordan Love trade would shock me more than just about anything else that I could possibly think of. Maybe the only thing that would be more shocking would be an Aaron Rodgers trade, right? But it would be very, very surprising to me at this point if that were to happen. So let's start first and foremost right there. And let's just rewind a season ago. Not that any of you listening to this forgot what I'm about to say here, but the Packers just traded less than a year ago a first and fourth round pick up to get Jordan Love in last year's draft. And for those of you who may also have forgot, saying that sarcastically, we were in the midst of a pandemic. We still are in the midst of a pandemic. There's no rookie mini camps. There's no OTAs. There's no regular mini camps. There was none of that. So Jordan Love in his first season was massively behind the eight ball. So the fact that he came in and was behind, of course, Aaron Rodgers, but also Tim Boyle is not an indictment of Jordan Love in any way, shape, or form. And we need to remember here, this was not just a situation, again, as all of you know, where Jordan Love fell to the Packers and he was best on their board, so they decided to take him. They moved up to get Jordan Love to ensure that they could get their quarterback and, get the player that they wanted and bring him to Green Bay. To move on from him less than a year later, without him taking a snap even in a preseason game would be beyond crazy for any general manager. When you move up for a quarterback, that's your guy, right? That in some way, shape, or form is your guy. You are putting a massive stamp of approval on that quarterback that you believe in him and that you think he has the potential to be the future of your franchise. Now, things can go in a million different directions from there on out, but I've seen people start talking about, well, this is kind of like a Jimmy Garoppolo. Well, Jimmy Garoppolo was like a mid-second round draft choice? There's a difference here between taking a quarterback in the mid to late second round, whatever it was, to moving up in the first round to get your guy at quarterback. There is a massively different connotation there. And also, by the way, by the time New England traded Jimmy Garoppolo, he was towards the end of his rookie deal, had started games, had played in games. They had made an evaluation of him, and they then traded him because of a couple weird situations at the time. So this is not an apples to apples scenario of Jordan Love to Jimmy Garoppolo, at least not yet. Maybe in a few years you could look at something like that, but at least not yet. And if you put yourself in the general manager's mind, Brian Gutekunst's mind for a second, you went out on a limb when you had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, who said he wanted to retire a Packer and everything like that, and you drafted Jordan Love because you felt that strongly about him, to make a 180-degree change and say, now we're going to trade him, would just be so uncharacteristic of anything that we've seen from the Ron Wolf, Ted Thompson, Brian Gutekunst tree of how you operate an NFL franchise. And to take that one step further, I don't care if you're in that general manager tree or not, every single general manager across the NFL is looking to buy low and sell high. No GM wants to spend a first and a fourth round pick on a quarterback and then trade them for much less in a season without ever even seeing them take a snap. And let's just evaluate for a second what a potential Jordan Love trade could get you in return. If Green Bay is willing to trade Jordan Love, that's not a great sign, right? So that immediately, just the fact that he would potentially be on the market, unless there was a team that reached out to you and said, we have to have Jordan Love and we're going to offer you a big trade package because we love him and we want him to be the future of our team, which I don't see happening. Unless that were to happen, if it's Green Bay that's making the calls or is open to trading him, that's an immediate red flag for any other team that would potentially be looking to trade him. And maybe you could give, the impression that, hey, Aaron's not happy and we have to trade Jordan. But even then, you're undercutting your stance there, right? You're not putting yourself in a position of strength and saying this is a commodity and we're going to get as much as we can for him. He's immediately lost value if he's on the trade market this season, no matter what way you look at it. So you look at what you could get. You're certainly not going to get, in my opinion, a first-round draft choice for Jordan Love. There are way too many good quarterbacks in this year's draft. And Mark Eckel, interviewed a scout, and that scout said, this was for Packer Report, that scout said that if Jordan Love was in this draft, he thinks he would be the third quarterback selected behind Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. And maybe that's the case. And maybe there's teams around the league that still feel very good about Jordan Love. But again, if he's on the market, if I'm another NFL team, that I'm immediately going to press pause and say, hey, why is Green Bay so open to trading him? And he couldn't beat out Tim Boyle a season ago, which again should not be a red flag. But if I'm another GM, that might be going through my mind. And now he's on the trade block and Green Bay's ready to trade him. Again, those would all be things that would be red flags if you're another NFL GM. So maybe there's a team that evaluated him very high in the draft and still thinks very highly of him. And maybe is willing to give maybe even a top second round pick, right? Something to that ilk. But I think even that is aggressive. And even then, if you're Green Bay, to get a second round pick back for a first and a fourth that you just traded a season ago, you're getting maybe not pennies on the dollar, but you're certainly not getting your value back. And again, if you had that much belief in Jordan Love just last season when you picked him, I can't imagine, even if he was awful a season ago, even if he was awful because of the circumstances of not having an OTA, of not having a mini camp, of any of that, you're probably not too ready to just give up on the guy yet. You probably want to see if he can develop the way that you expected him to when you picked him a season ago in last year's draft. So I don't see any way, shape, or form that Brian Gutekunst is entertaining this idea. And then I think another thing that you have to take a look at here is salary cap, right? And this isn't that big of an issue here if you're looking to trade Jordan Love, but Green Bay's in a situation where they need every cap dollar available so that they can get under the cap and maybe sign a free agent or two or do something to help improve this team. Well, trading Jordan Love actually gives you about a little over a $2 million cap hit. So you're not actually saving money. You're actually taking on a cap hit right now for Jordan Love. And $2 million, you can get by with that, right? It's not something that's, if you got the right deal or the right offer, you're certainly not thinking all that much about a $2 million cap hit, but it just adds on to the reason why you don't want to trade Jordan Love at this point in time. It's just another reason. It's just adding on to that laundry list of items already. So to kind of recap here, in no way, shape, or form do I think Brian Gutekunst would be ready to move on from Jordan Love, especially with how highly they thought of him in last year's draft. 2, the circumstances, what they were last season, certainly played a part. 3, you're still thinking of him as a potential future quarterback for your franchise down the line. I know Aaron Rodgers played great, but you don't know what's going to happen over the course of the next couple seasons. You want to kind of see this and play this out a little bit and kind of develop how things would go through. And then again, you're not getting the return on investment that you paid just last season for Jordan Love. You're not selling high. He's not a known or wanted commodity at this point. So I just don't see any reason why this would happen. And again, you're taking on salary cap by actually trading him away. And I don't think there's any team that would offer Brian Gutekunst anything of value in return in draft capital. So let's just put all of that aside for a second and say, all right, let's just say, though, Aaron Rodgers is adamant that they have to choose between Rodgers or Love, which I don't expect to be the case. But let's just role play that scenario out for a second. Or Brian Gutekunst realizes, you know what? I didn't think Aaron still had the capability of playing the way that he did a season ago. I didn't love what I saw out of Jordan Love last season. And if I think I can get, something of value in return now, maybe I'll still flip him for something and we can start building this team this year. Maybe, like I said, there's a 0.0001%, whatever you want to call it, chance that maybe something like that happens. What does that trade look like? I'll give one hypothetical here because I think something like this would be the value that you could get in return and a team that would make sense in return. And I want to preface this by saying this is not a rumor. This is not going to happen. I don't expect this to be a conversation that takes place. But a deal that would make some sense for both teams to me. Again, you're not getting a draft pick in return, and if you're Green Bay and you're Brian Gutekunst, you don't want to have egg on your face of saying, I just spent a first and a fourth on Jordan Love, and now I'm getting a second rounder in return, right? That doesn't look great. You're not getting a return on investment. So in my opinion, this has to be a player for player swap. Jordan Love for another player. And to take that a step further, you're not looking to take on heavy salary cap. So you don't want anyone that's making 10, 15, 20 million or has a contract coming up where you're going to have to pay them a ton of money because you don't have anyone that's that you don't have the money to pay those sort of players coming forward because you're going to have to pay Jair and Devontae and Bakhtiari and Kenny Clark and Aaron Rodgers and so on and so forth. So you want a cheap, controllable player over the course of the next few seasons. And then, of course, you're going to want to trade to a team that is in need of this type of quarterback. So what type of swap makes sense here? How about Jordan Love to the Pittsburgh Steelers for Chase Claypool? And I know what you're maybe thinking right away. Why would the Steelers trade away Chase Claypool, right? But they're in a bad position when it comes to quarterback. They're going to probably bring back Ben Roethlisberger this season. We know Mason Rudolph and Josh Dobbs aren't the guy that's going to lead the quarterback group for the future for the Steelers. If they bring Roethlisberger back, they're probably at least a good team again, right? 8-8, 9-7, maybe 7-9, somewhere in that situation. So they're probably not going to have another premium draft pick next year. They don't have one this year. All of those quarterbacks, maybe even including Mac Jones, might be gone by the time that they select. And maybe you need to go out and get a guy so that when Roethlisberger is done after this year, you can play him as soon as next season. Enter Jordan Love, right? You give him 1 year behind Roethlisberger. He had a year behind Rodgers. You're going to train him in this new system all this season. You're going to make him the backup quarterback. And then next year, the plan is to have him take over, which is a much better timeline for the Steelers than it is for the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers right now. But you might say, well, why would they trade Chase Claypool? He was fantastic a season ago, one of the best rookies in all of football. Why would they be so readily available and eager to trade away Chase Claypool for a Jordan Love? Well, first of all, this has been a team and a franchise that has been able to draft wide receivers better than anyone, period, end of story. They can basically spend a third or fourth round pick on a receiver at almost any time and find a really, really good one, including Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, Washington's hasn't been bad. Juju Smith-Schuster, going back to Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, like Antoine Randall Hainsworth. Like this franchise has been phenomenal at drafting and developing wide receivers. So they might feel like, hey, there's a guy in the second or third round that we feel that we can get in a wide receiver rich draft that we feel really good about that could take that spot. And maybe just re-sign Juju Smith-Schuster and go with Smith-Schuster and James Washington and Deontay Johnson. You're still good at wide receiver, right? And again, maybe bring one more guy in the third or fourth round pick because they're so damn good at it. They might feel like they can replace that wide receiver position much easier than what they could to get a quarterback. Again, they don't have a premium pick this year. Those top quarterbacks are likely gone. They're going to be gone. You'd have to give up a ton of capital to get one of those quarterbacks. You're probably not in a situation to get one next year. You're dying to move on from Ben Roethlisberger, but you don't have the guy to do it. So a Chase Claypool for Jordan Love trade could make sense for both sides. The Steelers get their potential quarterback of the future and a high-end talent that they can develop for a season behind Roethlisberger before having him take over. And for Green Bay, you get one of the best receivers from last year's draft with 3 years of super cheap contract left on his deal. And you go, Devontae Adams, Chase Claypool, MVS, Allen Lazard. That is a hell of a way to start your offense with Bobby Tonyan at tight end, A.J. Dillon at running back, get Bakhtiari back at tackle. Now you've got an offense and you can address defense in hopefully free agency and really kind of trying to shore that up, especially with the draft as well, and can put wide receiver to the side for the time being because Adams and Lazard and now Claypool wouldn't be going anywhere for a while. So this is a fun hypothetical, right? I'm not ever going to say again that Jordan Love for Chase Claypool is happening, but I want to get the wheels turning of like what a Jordan Love trade would look like. You want a cheap, young, talented player who could come in and play right away from a team that's needing a quarterback, and you have controllable years of their contract on a really cheap salary. Chase Claypool would hit all of those things. And I think, no egg on your face if you're Brian Gutekunst, right? You picked a quarterback last year and you were able to flip him for one of the best rookies in the draft from a season ago. at a position that you need and want to continue to develop, that would, no Packer fan in the world is going to be upset that you flopped Jordan, you picked Jordan Love and had to trade him for a receiver a season later in Chase Claypool. No one's going to be upset with that. Steelers fans maybe, but they know they need a young quarterback to come in and be the potential future of that franchise. So it might be a little easier a pill to swallow in that situation. And again, Steelers have found wide receivers anywhere. So I think fans of Pittsburgh would know that as well. So that's the kind of way that I would think about it if in the no chance in hell whatsoever that this does happen, actually happens. I think that's the type of deal that Green Bay would be looking for. Way over on time. I didn't think I was going to talk near that much about a potential Jordan Love trade, but I just love thinking about those hypotheticals. I know this isn't Madden. I'm not trying to make it that. I'm trying to, put GM glasses on as best I can to say, this is why it's not going to happen. If it did, this is what it could potentially look like. Hopefully you enjoyed. I appreciate you listening. Make sure to check out my brand new podcast tomorrow here on YouTube. I will be back again every day, 365 days a year. Also, make sure to check out Jacob and Jason on today's audio version of the podcast, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.